The Real Housewives of New Jersey Season 13 reunion special began with a lot of simmering resentment. As predicted, Teresa Giudice and Melissa Gorga at least pretended to hate each other during some of this season. They were looking at each other with daggers at the reunion. They might have been hurling them if they had them on hand. Then Teresa came right out and said it, blaming Melissa for her imprisonment. They had been discussing another hot topic for a long before Teresa made this astonishing and extremely dangerous claim. This time, Melissa and Trey were arguing over a younger family. Melissa was upset when Teresa defended that Melissa's daughter had neglected her own children. Teresa then asserted that she had not drawn the nieces into the situation. She claimed Melissa had carried out this. Wow. Melissa highlighted that she loves her nieces and has never spoken negatively about them, despite the fact that they appear to resent her rather openly. Teresa then mentioned Melissa's podcast, Melissa Gorga on Display, in which the Gorgas talked about how they had once supported their nieces when Teresa was unable to. A brief audio clip about putting food on the table for Teresa's kids when she couldn't was then aired on the reunion. Melissa went on to clarify what they meant. The phrase, putting food on the table, is not always literal. She emphasized how she and her husband had supported their 4 nieces in various ways, such as Joe enrolling Gia in college. Teresa was reminded by Melissa that they were cool at the time. When Teresa was released from prison, she was the one who made it cool, she bragged while waving her reunion talons. This led to another contentious discussion. They disagreed about whether Teresa was to blame for Joe visiting Teresa in jail so frequently. The issue is that nobody else finds the whole prison visitation business intriguing. In fact, some of their castmates were visibly bored as the argument between the two of them continued. Yes, there was a time when they supported one another, then, they stopped. Their conflict has a lot of intriguing and captivating elements. But this isn't the last bit. The words they were screaming at each other stopped being interesting, and it's not even funny. Jennifer Aydin hosted a viewing party for the Season 13 debut. We swear it was unrelated. Attending was Margaret Joseph's former best friend Laura. Jennifer made no effort to hide the fact that she had asked Laura only to play dirty, and Margaret was as forthright as ever when expressing her emotions. Really, without Margaret, what would this show be? Teresa started to list her accomplishments when Melissa countered with the same charge. On the broadcast, she mentioned having a child. On the episode, she mentioned getting hitched. Teresa added being incarcerated to her list, which was a strange boast. Melissa clapped passionately sarcastically in response to Teresa's list. She was drawing attention to the fact that Teresa appeared to be boasting about her prior incarceration. But let's talk about her time in jail. Teresa intensifies her attempts to revisit the past. Keep in mind that the Season 13 theme of the reunion is intended, but in Teresa's eyes, this is just a small battle in a long battle she has been fighting. Poor Andy was simply miserable in the meanwhile. Reunions have become increasingly formal. This was not one, at least not in the editing room. When Joe and Teresa reportedly did something behind her back, Teresa then started to imply that she knows about it. Her origin? Jacqueline Loretta, a former foe. Andy was jolted out of his would-be sleep by that ridiculousness. Like the rest of us, he thought it was absurd that Teresa would have any faith in Jacqueline. Keep in mind that Teresa and Melissa used to get along great. Jacqueline was their enemy at the time. As Teresa started to blame others, Melissa and Margaret remarked that this reminded them of the time when Teresa claimed Carolina Manzo had thrown her in jail. Teresa, however, stated that she would like to take back the accusation. Teresa alleged that Melissa was responsible for locking her up, and it appears that she is accepting Jacqueline's word for it. Rachel Fuda shrieked, but Margaret only grunted in frustration. At the second reunion, this mess will be explored further. We're still dealing with the emotional fallout from that claim right now. There are still many supporters that either Team Teresa or Team Melissa.